Keir Starmer today unveiling his version of New Labour's pledge card. It was 5 items on Rishi Sunak. Remember that pledge card that he just kept repeating and repeating and repeating no matter what you were talking about with him? Labour's gone one up on them and got 6 pledges for the next general election. 6 key commitments, they say, put up in lights, their words, not mine, as part of the party's offer, particularly to swing voters, those who aren't dyed-in-the-wool Labour voters. If that includes you, do give us a call and tell me what you think of the 6 pledges. I'll go through them with you in just a second. It's going to be distributed to voters on doorsteps, not just the big announcement speech that was given this morning, which did feel very general election campaigny in nature, didn't it? It'll be distributed to voters on doorsteps across England. That event this morning in Essex, as the Labour leader launches the party's biggest advertising blitz since the last election in 2019. Just in case you haven't seen them yet, the 6 commitments are the 6 first steps, as Labour are calling them, is number 1, deliver economic stability. Number 2, cut NHS waiting times. Number 3, launch a new border security command, which is a fancy way of saying dealing with immigration, migration, asylum, all of it. Set up Great British Energy. And again, for those of you who've been disappointed by the kind of reduction in the original offer on climate, that's what that's alluding to. Number 5, cracking down on antisocial behaviour, which we can talk more about in a few minutes. And number 6, recruit 6,500 new teachers, which I presume will be music to the ears of many of you in education and many parents as well, because the use of supply teachers and non-subject teachers in senior schools is through the roof. So those are just some of those are the 6 pledges today, just some of the policies that Labour wants you to be talking about in relation to them. I mean, already there's been disappointment expressed on Twitter and elsewhere from people with very particular concerns, saying that this particular issue should have been on that list. And I've got a great deal of sympathy for some of them. It was interesting to notice that housing wasn't on the list. Social care, of course, wasn't on the list. What else wasn't on the list? Child poverty, child and family destitution, which is what we're dealing with in this country now, not on the list. I mean, they might argue that that's under delivering economic stability, but it is such a deep and shaming problem in this country that you would have perhaps expected it to be on a Labour First Steps for Change list. A few thoughts from me on that list of Labour's First Steps for Change, as they're calling it, if they get into power. Jonathan Reynolds, in his conversation with me just now, the Shadow Business Secretary, emphasising that there is more to come, that this is putting some meat on the bone of particular sort of big ticket issues, as he would regard them. But there are other big ticket issues in your life, whether it's housing, whether it's social care, whether it's poverty, trying to feed your family and afford your life in a really acute way, that don't make this list. I mean, you could argue that some or all of them are covered in deliver economic stability, but that's a bit overarching, really, for any sort of political connection to be made between the two. But I wonder whether at number 3 on this list, launching a new border security command, I wonder whether there would have been as much focus from Labour if Rishi Sunak and his team hadn't decided to make it such a big issue leading up to the general election. And there's no doubt it is a big issue. There's no doubt that people dying in the Channel and crossing the Channel and the state of our asylum system and some of the illegality that goes with those crossings, not all of it. But there's no doubt it's a big issue. But I wonder whether they've put it at number 3 on their list simply because Rishi Sunak seems to be putting it at number 1 on his list. But the statistics on those crossings are not pretty. They don't indicate that anyone has got control of that problem, which I alluded to in my conversation with Jonathan Reynolds. But what I want to know from you is if you were sitting with Keir Starmer now and he was talking about his first steps for change to you in your living room in an election campaign, Keir Starmer or one of his foot soldiers is in your living room or on your doorstep chatting about first steps for change, what would it be for you? And if you're trying to work out how to vote and you're giving Labour chance still, even though you voted Conservative or for another party in the last general election. Is this all a bit too similar to the Conservatives than you would want, I wonder? Because it's definitely, well, partly anyway, it's clear that it's aimed at swing voters, at voters that they haven't yet got in the bag. So a couple of questions for you. If you were to sit with a Labour MP, a Labour campaigner, and talk about Labour's first steps for change, what would they be? And does it shift your vote, any of this, or shift your thinking on your vote?